And we're good to go now. Okay, so what we are going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the California putting the ban on gasoline vehicles by 2035. So what they have done is decided to stop selling gasoline and diesel new gasoline and diesel vehicles by 2035. And what they wanted to do, which was, I'm not sure why it was such a big deal, but this is what they wanted to do. And here is the chart and graph of how they wanted to do this. And sorry, still working through some stuff here. We want to take that out and we want to do this. So we want to see that California is making this transition to 2035. And right now, I think they said that the amount of EV sales that are going on right now are right around 12%, and they want to boost that up. And New York is also following suit with all of this. They have decided that it sounded like a good idea to them, and they decided to do the same thing. So New York followed a few days later, and they are saying no passenger cars or light trucks will be sold after 2035 unless they are zero emissions. So this is a big push and a great thing for the EV market coming up. So I think this is really going to start making everybody transition. And the funny thing is that everybody says, oh, EVs aren't going to last. It's not going to be that big a deal. And all that's happening is there's more vehicles coming out, more manufacturers producing EVs, and all that's happened now is that the states are adopting that and running with it. They're like, yes, we're gonna do this. So for those who didn't think EVs were gonna last, you might not want to be in those states because you won't be able to buy a new gasoline or diesel engine by 2035. Now, the way that they're going to get there is a complete different route than what you would expect. So they are going to scale this, and this is how they're going to do that. So they're going to scale this from starting next year and moving forward. By 2026, they want to have 35% of all new car sales be EVs. And this number is going to increase slowly over the years until they reach that 100% by 2035. So it's really going to make things interesting over the next few weeks, or next few years anyway. Now with the tax credit, we had this problem with the tax credit recently, and it looks like unless some of these manufacturers get on board quickly and start making some moves, none of these tax credits are going to happen. You still might be able to get some state incentives. There's a few states out there that have some rebates. I believe it's Oregon. In Oregon, they have the opportunity of actually getting $7,500 federal tax credit depending on the vehicle, and a $7,500 state credit. So they technically could get about $15,000 off of an EV. Here in Illinois, we just started a EV tax credit in July of $4,000. So if the vehicle qualifies for that $7,500, where we can actually get an additional $4,000 on top of that. So we're looking at about $11,500 as long as everything qualifies right. So we'll see how that's going to go, and we'll just have to see what happens over the next few years. It's going to be hard. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback, and we just really don't know what's going to happen. All right. So, let's see if we've got any questions on the California, stopping the sale of these gas vehicles, and same with New York. If you do, put them in the comments there, and we'll start talking about a few of these things. Hi, Silver Nord, how you doing? It's good to see you here. We are gonna move on then, and we're gonna move on to memberships. I just wanted to let you guys know that OSR Garage memberships are now open. We have 3 levels, and the first level you get emojis and a few things like that to signify that you are a member. And then on the second tier, we're going to go do second and third tier. You get videos before the rest of the platform does. So I will upload the videos into a members only group, and you will get to preview those videos before I put them on. And that way you guys get first dibs. And the other thing is you also will get information from me for members only, depending on what's going on and what OSR Garage is doing, what vehicles we might be test driving, any reviews that we might be coming up on. We're working with some manufacturers and trying to get some test vehicles. We're not sure how that's going to go right now. Hopefully we can get some in here. And then the very top tier, you'll also get free merchandise. So you can get a free t-shirt, something like that. So hope you guys are interested in that. And like I said, it just goes to help the channel, help pay for some of this equipment and streaming and stuff like that to get you guys this information. So we will move on. Looks like we've got a question here. Is this going to force EV prices up? Now, it is possible. Knowing if the manufacturers know that these states are going to only sell EVs, that there's a possibility that they could push the prices up. But as we're seeing right now, the prices are already going up. We've already seen the Ford Lightning prices go up. We've seen Rivian raise their prices. Tesla's been raising their prices for the last 2 years. About every quarter, they seem to raise it a few $1,000s, if not $5,000 or $10,000. So the prices are increasing, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it, but just try to ride it out. There's a lot of demand out there right now, and that's part of what's driving these prices. So I don't think initially that the whole state's just going EVs will change the price too much. But what you might see in these states is they have to hit that percentage. So like they want to be at 35% by 2026, which means 35% of all sales in the entire state have to be EVs. So now if they're on the overhead, like say the one dealership is sitting at around 25%, getting towards the end of the year, they might start discounting those EVs to try to boost their EV sales up. I don't know how that's going to work, but they're going to have to try to balance that out. And I'm guessing every dealership is going to have the same guidelines. It's going to be 35% that have to be EVs. So you will order just so many gas vehicles and so many EVs and try to keep that balance and keep them pushing out. And what you may end up having to discount some EVs just to make those sales and keep your dealership in line. I don't know if they're going to put out any fines. I don't know if the state's going to fine anybody if they're not in line with this, but it's a possibility. So speaking of raising the prices of EVs, we are going to move into Ford. So Ford has decided to raise the prices on the Mach-E, just like they did with the Ford Lightning. Now, the bad thing about this is the Mustang Mach-E is a desired vehicle, but I don't think it's as desired in the lower trims as it is in the upper trims. And what Ford has seemed to be doing is the lower trim, which is the Select on the Mustang, doesn't get a whole lot of sales. So they really didn't increase it very much. But the premium and the GTs that have, especially with the extended range batteries, which is the same thing they did with the Lightning, they significantly increased it. So to take a look at that, where I've got a graph showing how much the increase is, and it is crazy. So if you take a look at this, you're looking there at the Select. You know, it gets a raise of about $3,200. But if you look down that chart, that is less than half, just about less than half of the average of the rest of them. So your premium with the standard battery is going to get a $6,075 increase. And then your premium with the extended range, similar to what they did with the Lightning, gets an $8,675 range. I mean, that is just crazy. And then the California Route one gets a $7,700 increase, and the GT Extended, and includes the Extended with the Performance, they get an $8,100 increase. I mean, now you're pushing the GT Performance maxed out right around $70,000, or just a little over $70,000. Now it's being pushed clear into the $80,000 price range, which takes it out. It takes it out of the tax credit also. I mean, why? Why increase it that much? That's just crazy. And Silvernorth says the extended range is not available around him. Is that, I think that looks like Wisconsin? Is that where you're at? So that's, you know, I'm not sure what the issue with that is. And I don't know if maybe they just are having a trouble with the extended range batteries right now. And maybe that's why they're getting such an increase. But it's just a huge increase, and I don't understand why so much. I could understand the Select price at $3,200. If they all were right around $3,200 to even just $5,000, I could see that making sense, that they're trying to make money off of these. The dealerships are making money, so they figure, well, we can raise the prices and make a little bit of money also. So it just looks like they are just trying to dig into any of that tax credit that they might possibly be able to get. Instead of you getting it, now they're basically getting it. Yeah, so it could be a shortage of cells. I haven't really heard anything about anybody having problems with the manufacturing of the batteries or getting the batteries. It's mostly been about the. It mostly just seems like it's about the. The money. I mean, just wanting more money. The chips are still an issue. Chips are still an issue, and that is part of what happened with the Lightning. So they did cut out some of that, but that's what they do. They try to enforce, try to push the EVs out more than the gasoline vehicles. Ford's actually said that all of their chips are dedicated to the EVs first, and then what they have left to make gas vehicles, then they put them in the gas vehicles. So they are prioritizing EVs right now. So Ford did add a few upgrades, and which is a plus. And they did the same thing with the Lightning. They did give a few little extra features in there. So what Ford has done is they increased the range on the extended range, I believe, all-wheel drive premium. I think it gets about 13 more miles. The upper trims, I believe, get a trial of the, Blue Cruise. So they'll get to try that out for a little while and decide whether they like it and want to keep it. All the trim levels will now get the Ford Co-Pilot 360 Assist. So that is a plus, because, and why they didn't do that with the Lightning, I'm not sure, because I believe the 360 Assist also gets the adaptive cruise. And so now why are the Mach-E's all getting the adaptive cruise and why not the Lightnings? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So we'll have to see what happens there and see if Ford offers that on the Lightning as a extension or a paid option that you can add on. And I don't know if they haven't said anything about whether that can be added on to any previous models either. So it may be something you have to be equipped with those chips to be able to upgrade that. That is one benefit that some other EVs are doing, and like Tesla has done and now Fisker is doing, is that they are fully equipping every car. And then you can add on what you want and activate, and all they got to do is flip a switch basically and turn it on your car. So that's the way that these manufacturers also need to take that route, because they can make money instead of having all these high-priced vehicles and raising the price on the vehicles. If they equip them with everything that they have and then let people have that option of paying extra to add on certain features, they can make a lot of extra money that way, especially if they do a subscription service. So if you do Blue Cruise and say, I want to do Blue Cruise, and they do it as a subscription service and say it's $1,200 a year, $1,500 a year, you're going to have a lot of people choose that option. And that's a big way that Ford and these other manufacturers can make extra money. So they really need to look at fully equipping these cars and letting the consumer decide what they want and don't want. Because we all know that most of the time people will want this and this and this, and they're going to pay for it. Whether they can afford it or not, they're going to think they need it and they're going to pay for it. So that is my advice on how to make extra money on these vehicles instead of raising prices. All right, has anybody got anything to say about the Ford and the pricing? If not, we are going to move on. And the next thing that is going to come up is there is a bank in Australia, which is kind of funny because they have decided that after 2025, they will no longer do any loans for new gasoline or diesel cars. Which, it's like, wow, now the banks are getting involved. That's pretty interesting. Now, why, these banks are just deciding in Australia is like, I guess that everybody's wanting EVs, so we're going to move and we're going to go right along with everybody else. So here is the statements that popped out that I grabbed. And so Australia, there's an Australian bank that is going to scrap their loans for the new diesel and gasoline cars as the country looks to increase EV uptake. I'm not sure how people are going to feel about that, and is it just one Australian bank? Is it like the biggest and major Australian bank? Because really, if it's just one bank doing it, I can't imagine that it's going to factor into too many things. People will just go to a different bank. I mean, that's the thing. Now, What I don't know if maybe Australia has one main bank that they go through, or it's, how that works. But they said they're not going to do anymore, and the only thing that they will do, they are going to provide loans for gas vehicles, for used gas vehicles, but not new gas vehicles after 2025. So if you're buying a used car, you'll still be able to get a loan through that bank. And they basically said that they are significantly behind the pack when it comes to EVs in their country. And I have looked at that aspect. Because really, if you look at Australia, it's a pretty cool place and probably a good place to retire. The temperature is pretty much the same all the time. It doesn't really get above like 80 or 85 degrees there, and it never gets below like, I think, 55 or 50 degrees. So it's like ideal, and it's like that all year round. So, but they really don't have much for EVs in that country, and a lot of U.S. manufacturers don't even have a whole lot of cars there. I think there's a couple plants. Ford might build some cars there, but they're not the same ones that we get. They're a little bit different. So it's the EV market there is really bad and or really low. And I think this is their way to try to boost that. But if you don't have the entire country on board, and it's just this one bank saying this, it's really not going to go very far. The one bank's just not going to get loans very often, and because they'll just go to a different bank. Now, hopefully, this is going to be a countrywide thing that they're going to start moving this direction. But if you see, Australia doesn't even have an real EV presence there, and we're looking at our states are now making these choices. When are the banks going to do it? There might be a point if Australia's already doing this and they're not doing this in like their certain areas of their country, their bank is actually doing it. I think that could be leading to our banks doing the same thing. If they are only if they are proactive at updating these features that are subscribed to. Yeah, there's some manufacturers that are having problems with updating. Volkswagen is probably one of the biggest ones right now. We've had a Volkswagen ID4 since December, and they've been promising over-the-air updates, and we haven't seen one yet. And the bad thing is they were talking about all these over-the-air updates that were supposed to happen, and then they come out and say, well, we can't do over-the-air updates without you taking your car in and getting a module and a battery replacement and then a physical update to be able to over-the-air update. So Volkswagen's just been a mess lately, and they just have to get their software issues figured out. But yes, if a manufacturer is not going to keep up on updating their vehicles, then no, it is really not going to help much. So we'll have to hope that they start doing this and they start looking into that subscription service and just making sure all the cars are fully equipped. All right. So what does everybody think about the banks? Do you think that that's something that could happen here in the U.S.? I mean, I hope not. We'd like to have our choices, but we do have a lot of banks here, and it would have to be something across the board for it to really make a difference. One bank is not going to make a difference in your loans. All right. Yeah, I don't think that they're going to really do much here either. So, did everybody see the video that I put out on the on the Fisker FI-Pilot. If you haven't, go check that out. It's up now. It's been running since, I believe, Tuesday. Talk everything about the Fisker Pilot. See if I can pull up the image of that. Should have it here. All right. Okay, here we go. So there is the thumbnail on the FI-Pilot that we put up. We kind of went over all of the features that it has, all the features that it has, pricing, went over the entire sensors and the cameras, all these digital cameras. There's like 12 ultrasonic sensors. There's cameras, and everything is digital cameras, digital radar. So it's like one of the first cars in the industry that's going to have this, and it's going to be a huge, huge thing. I see everybody wanting to follow after this car actually gets out and they see what the digital radars and the digital the digital radars and digital cameras can do, and versus what the other standard is with the analog radars. I think there's a part in there where it actually shows where you go into a tunnel, and I don't know if you've seen this happen in your cars, that you go into a tunnel and sometimes it gets like a black wall, and it almost seems like it thinks that there's a wall there. And it like lights, all of a sudden it'll want to hit its brakes, and then it'll realize it can see again when it goes in, it finally gets into the tunnel. That won't happen here. That will actually be able to see into the tunnel and see that it is a tunnel, and be able to see into the dark and see if there's something there. And if there's nothing there, you're just going to keep on driving. That's pretty cool. The other thing that we also talked about was with the analog radars. If you have two semi trucks like this driving down the road and you have a motorcyclist in the middle, with the analog, all it sees is these two big things and completely ignores the little thing in between. With the digital radar, it's going to be completely different. It will see those two images. It will also see the little image in the middle, and it also will pick up a tire or little things that are in the road that the digital radar may not see or may not sense, or the analog radar may not sense. So that is pretty cool. Yeah, the magnet video is really cool on how they do that. And the other thing is, I am probably going to look at doing a video on Magna and what kind of products that they have and possible products that will be in the Fisker Ocean. So that will be probably coming up in the next week or two. It's going to be something that's going to be a little bigger video to try to put together, a little more research, things to look at. And then we also talked about the Aptera a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if anybody really knows a whole lot about the Aptera, but I did a video on it. So here is the thumbnail for it, so you can go find that. That just went up on Friday, or actually Saturday, went up yesterday. It was a pretty cool video, pretty cool to find out the information that this thing has. It's got 4 battery choices, and you can go from 250 mile range battery all the way up to 1,000 mile range battery. And there's a small little clip in there where I talk about the efficiency of the vehicles, and the top 4 are the Toyota Corolla at 0.29 drag coefficient. The Tesla Model 3 has a 0.23 drag coefficient, and then there's the Aptera that has a 0.13 drag coefficient, and the top one is the Solar Racer. which is just basically almost flat, and it is a 0.07 drag coefficient. Well, that 0.13 that the Aptera gets actually gets it 10 miles per kilowatt hour. So if you have, say, so that's where they're getting these numbers. So you have a 25 kilowatt battery it starts out at, and if you're getting 10 miles per kilowatt hour, now that's 250 miles. And then if you go up to the next one, which is a 40 kilowatt hour battery, that gives you 400 miles. 60 kilowatt battery is the next one, and that's 600 miles. And then you put a 100 kilowatt hour battery in there, and you get up to 1,000 miles. The other thing that the Aptera has is it has solar panels that come standard on the dash and the hood, I believe. I think it's the dash and the hood. And then if you want more solar, then you can get the roof with solar, and the hatch will have solar on it also. When you add all of those together, that will actually give you about 700 watts of power coming from the sun to charge the battery, and will give you up to 40 miles of range per day. So you could drive that to work and let it sit out there in the sun while you're in at work for 8 hours, and come out, and you'll have somewhere probably around 20 to 30 miles added back onto it. So for me, I drive about 15 miles to work and 15 miles home. If I drive that 15 miles over to work and it sits out there in the sun all day, I may actually leave work with more range than I left home with. So that'll be pretty cool. And if you think about it, depending on the size of your battery, you could actually get this and charge it all the way full. And if it sits outside all day while you're working or whatever, you may end up not having to charge that again for a month or maybe 2 months. It's hard to say. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but it's a pretty cool thing. All right. Anybody got any questions about the Fisker Ocean or the Aptera? So we have, there's a few things that I'm working on that I just talked about doing the Magna video. We are also not sure what direction we're going to go with the Aptera. We might do a few more videos on the Aptera. And then we're going to start we're going to have the ID4 20,000 mile review will be coming up. And we also, what else do we have coming up? We should be getting some more information on the Ford Lightning. The ordering banks for the Ford Lightning for regular reservation holders now should be opening in the middle of September. So that's going to be kind of exciting. And right now, this seems a little odd. I actually heard that some of the ones that were ordering the Pro in this first wave this fall, when they were ordering, it was showing that the XLT, Lariat, and the Platinum were all going to be starting delivery this fall, which I think is a little early. I think it's going to be more like next spring at the earliest, because they have so many right now that they haven't even gotten out and delivered yet, that from people that ordered back in January and February. So the fall's a little close for me. I know that they are trying to ramp up, and they're planning on they have said that they want to do 150,000 this year. Their original goal was 50,000, and then they raised it up to around 80,000. So now they're saying they want to try to do 150,000, which may be the reason that they cut out a few things off of the Lightning, like the bed scales, since that's chips that they can use in other Lightnings to get more out. So that may be their plan. But if that's the case, they said that the Pro wasn't going to be starting delivery until next fall of 2023. Now, if they're ramping up, it doesn't make sense to me that they would hold those trucks clear until the end of next year. That seems just a little odd. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to put the pros out earlier than that. It doesn't make sense to hold what was technically your cheapest truck and hold it for the entire year and not put it out till the end of the year where they could be pushing those out and making money off them. I know the higher trims are probably going to pull in a more of a profit for them, but to push a trim line all the way back to next year, which it would be really just telling people order a trim higher or we're not going to build your truck until we feel like it. I just really don't think that's going to happen with the way that they are planning on ramping up. So that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. Hopefully we get some info on that. Like I said, I've got some emails out to manufacturers. We'll try to get some media cars, test cars, things like that. We're just going to keep working on that. That's usually you got to have a pretty high subscription base on that, but it doesn't hurt to try and let them know that we're here and we're not going away, and we plan to bring this information and stuff to you guys. So if that is all we've got and we don't have any more questions about anything that I can help you guys with, then we are going to probably wrap this up. And thanks for bearing with me at the beginning. If you were happened to have been here at the beginning, I'm working on a new software that I'm trying to tie in to Restream, and so I was working on it, and I was like, oh, it's already up and live, and I was still messing around with some things. So, thanks for bearing with me during that portion of that. Anyway, thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys next week.